In this video, I will show how we are using ChatGPT to improve our content generation within the game. And we will also work a little bit with the code to improve this ChatGPT integration and make it even better. And maybe also extend it to bloodlines. So right now we've only implemented it for quests. And if we are just to see what it does first, let's go make a new quest. And we can then we have a small ChatGPT box in here where we can ask, please make a quest about retrieving a fire scroll. And if we send this off, basically it asks ChatGPT to come up with a title and a description, so it updated these fields. And then we also get an error saying that it couldn't update the objective, and that's because it tries to create objectives that do not exist. So this is what we will start off by trying to improve a little bit. So if we start up by opening this page, so this is the quest ID page. That's this component. We can see here that we have this piece of logic that's a call to the backend. Basically, it's a gRPC endpoint to the backend where we create the quest. So here we send a request to OpenAI. We'll go to the backend as well. And whatever it gets back in this data, it updates these different field values in the form. So let's go to the backend. That is this create quest. That's defined here. This is where we call the client, that's the OpenAI client, chat completions create, and we ask it to return some JSON with the fields title, description, success description, and objectives. And then we tell it to use this JSON object. But I don't know exactly how this is done behind the scenes, but we tell it that it can return these objectives, and they need to be of these types that we have. But somehow it hallucinates new types of objectives anyways, which of course won't be understood by the front end, which only basically can deal with the types that are actually defined. So let's try to improve this a little bit. And I read this the other day about OpenAI. So if we go to the OpenAI package we're actually using, this one, and they have some documentation for their API reference here, and we can go to chat. That's the one we're using. They have this tools section. I think we need to look into using this instead, because then we would actually be defining what the OpenAI should return more specifically, and we can say, go here, function. So we can say you have this tool and you have to return a JSON that complies to a given JSON schema. So I think by doing this, we can make it a little bit more consistent what is returned by OpenAI. So if we start, I think by doing this, we will be able to return types that have everything that we are actually requesting. So let's say the type we expect is return quest, which has a title, description, success description, and objectives. And if we just open the schema, let's go to quest. You see it's actually not named title, it's named name. And maybe we will also extend it so that it can now update the quest type. And what else can we have it update? Quiet rank, maybe. Do these two. And these two are enums. And I think we have the types in here. So we go letter ranks. Yes, and or type letter rank, and say this is this type, And we also have quest types. Quest type. So these are just the mission, crime, event, exam, and these are DCBAS. But this is the return type we expect for quests. What's up with this? Okay, it was just slow. That is fine. I think because we want to use this completion API for multiple content types. So I think we should abstract it out probably, so that we don't have to retype all this, what model is it and stuff like this. Right now we're using GPT 3.5. We should probably upgrade that as well. But let's make a generic function for calling openai. So probably has to be async. How do we do this? Call openai. Then it needs to be a generic. So this just means we want to be able to give it the type it should return. In this case, it's return quest, but it could be we wanted to create bloodlines or whatever as well. And then you could just give it the bloodline type you expect back. Then it needs to take some parameters, and it goes like this. So parameters we want to send to openai. We want to send prompt. And we probably also want the current data just as a string. And let's say that's it for now. And then we want to call the completion API. So if we copy this initially, but we need to change this a bit. So all this content we remove right now. And let's see. Then I don't think this response format is actually required anymore, because we will be using this tools. And the tools has to take a list, as here, an array of this type. That means array of objects. And the objects needs to have a type which can only be function. And then it needs to have a function which is an object, and that one has a description. Leave it empty for now, a name, empty for now, and some parameters. And I think the parameters is what defines the JSON schema we want back. So what's the type of that? Because we actually want that to take that from the parameters. Parameters, function parameters. The record of string unknown. So let's allow ourselves to take that as an input to our generic function. And this is what we put in here. The parameters. Seems like TypeScript is not complaining yet. So let's just keep going. Tool choice controls which, if any, function is called by the model. None means the model will not call a function and instead generate a message. Not what we want. Auto means it can pick. And we want to say you need to always respond with this tool. So we go for the last option. It's an object. We call it type function. And then we go function object with a name, and we I guess we need to name this function create token object. Let's call it this. And as far as I understand, the name up here should then be the name of this function. The description of the function is create an updated object. And function parameters comes from the user. I think this one is actually all right. Then we need to pick out the result of this completion. I don't think this is right, because right now we're picking up the message coming back from ChatGPT. And I think this content, right, it contains a tool calls. Calls, that means it's plural. Probably there's a list of things. We get back here. Chat completion message. Can we go to this type definition? That it has an ID, a function, a type. And this one has arguments, which is a string. The arguments to call the function with a generate in JSON format. Alright, that means I think that we need to do function. It's auto-completing and arguments. And I think this is probably the stringified JSON returned from OpenAI. So we return JSON. We need to pass this. And I guess we could call this args. We pass this one unless nothing was returned, in which case we do like we did before and just pass a string with an empty object. So why is it complaining about this? Just ESLint has to restart maybe. Yep, we need a faster computer. All right, so we still need to put in the prompt. Why is it complaining? Unsafe return of an... yeah. I guess we need to cast this because we know that we're returning this type. Does this work with a generic function? Yep, seems like it. Perfect. Okay, and then the last thing we need to do is write the prompt to ChatGPT, and we will just tell it to update our talk object following these instructions. So these are the instructions from the user. Prompt. And we also need to use that current data variable we're getting. We do 2 new lines and then the data for our current took object is suggests this, but I don't think we need to tell it in the prompt that it has this function available. At least that's not how I've understood this API. And then lastly, we need to update the GPT. And as far as I remember, I think the model 4 is just called like this, preview. Otherwise, I'm sure it will complain saying that was completely wrong. Let's just look through this. I think this looks okay and TypeScript is happy. So let's try using it down here. And I'm sure we will mess something up here. But basically, we want to replace this entire thing. And say get a result, call openai with return request. And then we need to have the prompt, which is just what we get in the input to this endpoint. So that's defined here. Rename it to prompt. These are the two parameters that our front end sends to the backend: quest ID and a prompt. And the first parameter was our prompt. The second was the string of our current data, which is in the quest, fetching the quest here. And then the last one is the interesting one. That's the one where we have to define our parameters. And let's go to the guide to see how we do that. JSON mode. There should be some examples here. Parameters. Do you think I saw something about how to define these JSON schemas somewhere? We'll just have to figure out where that is. See the guide for examples. Here. Tools. Here we go. Tools. No. The wrong kind of tools. There's no examples in there. Annoying. Boom, boom, boom. Different. Wrong thing now. Chat, create chat completion. Then we have it's just me being done. See the guide. There we go. Parameter details. Completely different. Let's Google a little bit then. Chat completion. Create tools parameters. Find some examples here. That's the old function API, which the documents said they are not using anymore, but maybe the parameters are still the same. So let's go to the right here and try to do the same as they do. Type equals to object, and then we need properties equals to an object of going on here, suggesting stuff. Name type string, description a string, success description a string. This looks all good. Objectives, an array of items of type string. This is good. We just needed to also be an enum if you can do that, and I think you can. I guess like this. Let's see if Copilot is nailing this one. Then we need all the different types, which we had here. quite interesting if this works, I guess. We can remove all that. And this is the promise, so we need to await it. And I guess we can just return it directly. Okay, I guess we need to update a little bit on the front end because we renamed title to name initially. And then let's see if this is actually working now. So we clear this one. We try sending the request and we get an error back saying received undefined. Is this because we changed? Yeah, we changed this one to be prompt instead of free text. Let's try again. So it updated some stuff. Let's see what was returned from. I think this actually worked. You have successfully retrieved. Is this? Yes. And quest mission to mission. Yeah, so I think this actually worked. Move to location, defeat opponents. Awesome. So it did everything it was supposed to do, except I don't think it could update the mission and required rank, because right now we're only updating what we have hard coded here. And probably that is not such a good idea to do it like that, since we might all the time add new fields to what we update and stuff like this. So we should try to do it a little bit more dynamically. So what we're getting back here is the return quest. And if we want to loop through an object and get the types, I think the best way I usually know to do this is to do like this. So we say the keys of our objects are this type. And then we go for key in data. Then it knows that's the key type. And for most cases, we can just do the set value, but not for objectives. That one we have to treat a little bit special. So we do if keys is equal to objectives. Then we do copy this, and everything else you just set value key data key. So set value is this method we have from the function. And we delete all the old. Then we say make it a rank crime. Let's see if it manages to update the required rank and quest type. Yep. Awesome. So that's a solid update for the quest thing. Maybe just to confirm that this is all working, let's try using it for bloodlines. So let's make a new bloodline. And then we need to introduce the ChatGPT bar up here. So if we just see here on the top right corner that this is the piece of code that's including the chat field in this page. And we go to the page for bloodline. We need to include it in the content box as well. And then we need to import the chat input field component. And we need to define our call to the backend with TRPC. That's this piece of code, and we need probably to update that to create bloodline, but let's do it like this for now. Pop, pop, pop. Then we need to import show toast as well. We need to import a few things here to make this work. And we need to import get objective schema. Although this won't be relevant for bloodlines, but let's just get rid of all the errors for now. And set objectives need to be. A lot of this will change. Maybe I think we need to go to the backend first and create this endpoint for bloodlines. So this should be quite easy, I think. We need to create a new endpoint called create bloodline. And we need to pick up the fetch bloodline function we have. Fetch bloodline from, I think that file is just called bloodline as far as I remember. See? Yep. And then we need to define our return type for bloodlines. Return bloodline. And here, what do we do? We need to go to the schema probably. We need name, description, effects, region increase, and rank. Let's do those. Name, description, then we had region increase, that's a number. Then we had rank, that's a letter rank. And we had effects, which is, that is a type we have defined in this file. Tag types. I think it's actually this one, yeah. This will be a list of all the tags we have in the system, all these different effects. So we will need to, not in this file, import that here. List of all the effects that we have. Libs combat types. And then we need the type of that. So we will need to do type of this number. Now effects should be one of these, but we want a list of them. So basically we wanted to return a list of tag names. So this looks right. Cool. And with this, I think we can almost update this instead of quest bloodline. We update this to call bloodline ID. That's the argument name. Pass that in there. We call this one bloodline instead. Bloodline not found. We do return bloodline, stringify bloodline, boom, boom, boom. And then we need to update all of these to be what we had up there. So if I just clear this, maybe Copilot can do it for us. So we have name, description, this is a number, rank is an enum with letter ranks, effects is an array, string, enum, tag types. Is that all of them? I think that's actually perfect. Good. And do we need to cast it? No, because that's what we do in there. Perfect. So now in our front-end component, instead of create quest, we can call create bloodline. Then it needs to update all the type stuff. Let's see. Update the bloodline. And we get the return should be a bloodline. Yes. This is not objectives anymore, it's effects instead. We set effects. Then this get objective schema. This is one we have to import from the types as well. Because now we're not looking for objective schemas, we're looking for effect schemas instead. And I can't remember what that is called. Somewhere here. Get tag schema. Import get tag schema from libs combat types. We do this one here. Do effects. This should not take a ID. I know the type. It's the type that is important here. Not a task, it's an effect. So effect is basically, it's one of the tag names. And then we get the schema for that effect. So this validation thing that says what other fields that effect should have. Then we safe parse it. So out here we should get one of the many tags and all the parameters for that tag. And if it passed successfully, we add it to the list. Otherwise we return undefined. And then we need all object type. That's the one in here somewhere. This one, I think. No. All text. Oh, where's that? Where do we get that type? Let me just think, have we done it somewhere else? I think there's one called all. No. What's it called? Text. No, but that's right, because this becomes a list of all the objectives with all the fields, not just the names. So it needs to be this sort all tags, and then we need to import that type. Sort all tags from. So this one is basically the union type for all the tags, and that is the one we need to cast the list of effects as. And then we set the effects to this. Then here we do bloodline ID. When we are sending the request to the backend, have we defined a bloodline here? Bloodline ID should be a thing. And yeah, seems like TypeScript is happy. We didn't need that one. And then let's see, create a fire bloodline. And that worked out. Gave everything. Perfect. Thank you for watching.